Here, I'll put the link in the chat. If whoever's watching, I'm putting the link to the mock draft in the chat. And I'll put it on Instagram as well. Okay, so I guess we can just talk about some of the trades. I know we'll talk about it on Wednesday, but while we're waiting, so we had the first blockbuster trade of Josh Hader going to the Padres for Taylor Rogers, Danielson Lamet, and two others. I have like two other minor leaguers, I believe, but obviously Hader was the big, and then I guess Rogers too. It's kind of funny because I think they're top two in the league in saves, I want to say, but Rogers has been really bad after his hot start, and then Hader had a really bad month of July, but you still think that he's going to bounce back, and so the Brewers probably have Devin Williams stepping in as the closer, and then you got Boxberger and Rogers who will kind of be in that late inning role as well. Curry, what was your kind of thoughts? Because at least for me, I hadn't really heard much of Hader being in the trade talks leading up to today, so it was definitely a shock to me. What about you?
I mean, first off, it kind of, left this impact that the Brewers, no, not Brewers, the Padres are a team that are not afraid to make a big splash. And AJ Perel, he is in let us win now mode. And notice, they didn't trade Abrams away. They didn't trade James Wood away. They didn't trade Gore away. So they still have the pieces for that potential Juan Soto trade as well, while getting the best closer somehow available on the market in Josh Hader. I thought if anyone was on the market, it'd probably be Devin Williams out of the two for Milwaukee. But at the same time, they're also contending for a division spot. But, the bats were kind of the thing that was lacking with that organization. But, I mean, they do get Taylor Rogers, you mentioned, and they're right behind. Literally, Taylor Rogers is, I think, second in saves, right behind Hader in the first place. So, they're getting the second best. They're getting the second most guy with second most saves in, I believe, the National League or all of baseball coming to their squad. But, this shows you that the Padres are not afraid to make a big splash, and I feel like they're not done yet. I feel like this Padres team is definitely going to go for Soto as we get closer to the deadline, literally almost 24 hours until the deadline closes Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So, as we get closer to this deadline, obviously there's been plenty of moves. Definitely the biggest splash was the Padres landing Josh Hader. Definitely a big move for their bullpen. That has been very suspect this year. But, I mean, Ari, I don't know. I don't know why you skipped over the first trade. We'll talk about that first trade for the Mariners. Why skip it over that trade?
I was just thinking the ones today.
the trade to kick off the trade deadline. Luis Castillo, obviously, a lot of you guys know Luis Castillo coming to Seattle for 4 prospects that involve Noel Marte, unfortunately, along with Levi Stout, and then Arroyo, and who was the last one? And Andrew Moore. But obviously, Seattle. This was the game that Seattle was down 11-1 in against the Astros this weekend. Jerry Dipoto, he had to make a splash because the Mariners, they needed an ace for their pitch rotation. And we talked about this. We said the Mariners need to get either Luis Castillo or Frankie Montas. And obviously Montas, we'll talk about where Montas landed later, but Luis Castillo is coming to Seattle. Yes, people are saying the haul was so much. The haul was so much we gave up for. We gave up Marte and Arroyo. Those are huge prospects that we gave up away. Yeah, but we still have Hancock. And most of that developed team that was in the minor leagues are now pretty much at the top level almost. And I feel like if the Mariners are going to be contenders, they got to be full contenders. So with this move, I feel like the Mariners may not be done because I've heard their name linked to Brandon Drury of the Reds as well. Basically, the Mariners are just getting all the Reds players. We're just getting all the Reds. Come on over. Jesse Winker, Eugenio, Luis Castillo, come on down. They're all like, come on down here. But great for the Mariners. They get a great pitcher in Luis Castillo. Obviously, there's some questions based on age and whatever in terms of how we'll sign him. But dude is definitely one of the best pitchers on. He was the best starting pitcher on the free agent and in the trade market. And the Mariners wanted to make a big splash, and that's exactly what they did. So people, both sides of this trade. For us Mariner fans, I like this trade. If the Mariners are going to be true contenders, they got to go for this, and I feel like this is definitely the move that this is the right move that they should have made, since they are really going to go for this, not only playoff appearance, but trying to see how they can do, especially in a 3-game series, as we talked about, a 3-game series in the wild card where you could have Castillo, Robbie Ray, and Logan Gilbert, 3 aces for the Mariners, who can get us 2 out of those 3 to move us on to the next round. Ari?
Yeah, just real quick for those people who are in the live, I put the link to the mock in the chat. We have 4 people right now, so just waiting on 8 people. So hopefully we can get this filled up soon. But yeah, I mean, obviously, on paper, the Mariners gave up a lot, 3 of the top 5 prospects in the system. But the way you look at it is that, since 2001, so 21 years they last made the playoffs. This team is looking to win now, and at least two of the 4 guys I traded weren't going to make the major league roster for another 2, maybe 3 years. And so when you're looking to win now, getting someone like Castillo, who has another 1.5 years on his contract, and my assumption is that the Mariners are going to eventually extend him this offseason if things pan out. And so I think this is a move that you kind of have to make in the Mariners position. And Mariners fans know as well as anyone that prospects are never guarantees, no matter how highly regarded or how highly ranked they are. Guys like Marte and Arroyo and Stout, we're hopeful to have panned out, and think that this is kind of like a win-win kind of trade for both teams. I'll put the link in a couple more times, just we have new people joining, but it's kind of a win-win trade where the Reds get, a good haul for Castillo, in a rebuild, and the Mariners get a legit ace who is the best pitcher on the team right now. He's better than Robbie Ray and Gilbert from a consistency standpoint. It's kind of worth noting that I think the Reds had the most the most hitter-friendly ballpark in the league, and Castillo still had an ERA like in the 2.8 range. And if you look at his away starts on the road, it sounds like 2.07. So I think in the Mariners park, T-Mobile Park is more so pitcher-friendly, I want to say. And so that should help him as well. And he gets to make his debut on Wednesday against the Yankees team that he just threw 7 one-run innings a couple starts ago. And so, yeah, I think like you were talking about, we have 6 people in here. So here's a link to the mock drafts. In a 3-game playoff series, I think when you have Castillo, Ray, Gilbert, however you want to set that up, those 3 can match up with any team pretty much pitching-wise. I mean, the Mets have the best, starting rotation, especially with DeGrom coming back healthy. But at least in the AL, at least in the American League, they can match up with anyone, I think, on the mound. So here, I'm just going to keep spamming the link. So, okay, we only have 2 spots left, so hopefully it fills up in the next couple of minutes. But, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I definitely 100% agree with you. I like this move for Seattle. If they're trying to win now, then win now, do it now. And I feel like that's definitely the move that they're trying to make. And I like what they're doing. You mentioned it. Castillo makes his debut Wednesday against this Yankees team who he just faced. I think he went 7 innings. I think
One run.
Yeah, 7 innings, 1 run ball, and he's facing off against Garrett Cole. So what a matchup, Castillo versus Cole on Wednesday in the matinee. So I'm definitely watching that Mariners game. But speaking of the Yankees, we'll get into their trade. They just traded for Frankie Montas and both Louis Trevino of the Oakland A's. So now Frankie Montas becomes a member of the Yankees. This is something that the Yankees have kind of wanted to do. They were kind of looking to make a decent or big splash at the at the trade deadline, and they got their pitcher. Obviously, they were linked to Soto, but obviously now they went with Andrew Benintendi, and then they also selected both getting Lou Trevino and Frankie Montas of the Oakland A's in a trade. So Ari, what do you think? How does this improve the Yankees rotation as a whole for you?
Yeah, I mean, you had guys like Jameson Taillon and Jordan Montgomery who got off to fast starts this season, but we've kind of seen them kind of fall off a little bit as of late. And so I think that starting pitching was definitely a need of the Yankees. And I know that they were in Castillo and in Montes, and so I expected them to land one of those two. And then their bullpen, too, has been a bit banged up or underwhelming, as of late a little bit. Clay Holmes just blew the save the other day against the Royals. Chapman's still kind of battling back. He's coming back from injury, battling his thing. So, both needs. And they also traded for, I believe, Efros, the Cubs reliever earlier, who's a pretty big addition for their bullpen. So definitely making moves as the Yankees do, every trade deadline pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that this Yankees rotation is obviously going to be a little more dangerous. The Yankees, they have always been World Series contenders. And this year has always been, what are the Yankees going to do at the trade deadline to, take them over the top and make them a World Series contender? So they obviously traded for Andrew Benintendi, and they traded a lot of their prospects to Oakland, 5 of them, I believe, in that Lou Trevino and Frankie Montas deal. So,
I don't think they traded any of the top, right? I think they didn't trade like Volpe or any of those guys, I believe.
No, I don't believe it was the top guys, but
Yeah.
I don't believe it was them. I don't believe it was the top guys. And then finally, there was one more trade. It's our first multi-team trade of the MLB this year. It's a 3-team trade between Houston, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay that involves All-Star Trey Mancini. So Mancini, along with right-handed pitcher Jaden Murray, they're going to Houston. Baltimore gets both 2 minor league right-hand pitchers in Seth Johnson and Chase McDermott. And then the Tampa Bay Rays got the Astros' Jose Siri, the center fielder. So multi-team trade that gives the Astros Trey Mancini. Tampa Bay gets the Astros Jose Siri. Obviously, Ari, that was a big move for the Astros. Definitely trying to get a bigger bat for their lineup to probably replace Yuli Gurriel, and they got one of the bigger ones of Trey Mancini. Ari, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there are rumors of Mancini potentially being on the move, maybe not being traded because Baltimore kind of surprised people and kind of are roughly in the wildcard race. But I know the Astros are targeting one of Josh Bell or Mancini, and so they land Mancini. I think he should definitely be an instant, immediate impact bat. Obviously, his last swing in Camden Yards was that inside the park home run off I think it was Brandon Lowe, I think it was in right field. But yeah, definitely will be an instant impact bat for the Astros that are already obviously a super dangerous lineup.
Yeah, the Astros already have one of the more dangerous lineups: Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman. Now they add Trey Mancini, another power right-handed hitter. Definitely a team to watch out for as the season winds down. But obviously, there's still plenty of more to come as the trade deadline approaches. We'll be doing another probably trade deadline recap on Wednesday's episode to preview just to see what the fallout was after the deadline passes tomorrow. So tune into that on Wednesday. But also, as we get into this mock draft, we're going to talk about that more. As look at us, Ari. We're in August. We are in August. We finally have hit August. It's the first of the month. Not to Renford's Playboy Cardi. It's the first of the month. We finally have got to the month of August where we will have preseason football. starting this Thursday, which is crazy with the Hall of Fame game between the Jags and Raiders. Ari, it's kind of feeling at that time again. I've been doing my mock drafts on the side as well to get ready for, some potential drafts coming up for us. But definitely one of the more exciting times of the year as we get ready to start the upcoming NFL season. Ari?
Yeah, I mean, we're just, I think, 3, maybe 4 weeks away from college football starting up later this month. And then you mentioned Thursday is the Hall of Fame game in the NFL. Obviously, it's preseason, all of that, but just to get an actual game on the field on TV that's not, obviously training camp is great, in July and all that. But now that we get into the actual preseason action where we can see, not the starters so much, especially early on, but, kind of guys playing for backup roles and all that. Just to get football back, is huge, especially for those bettors, the dog of the summer in June and July where it's just baseball is brutal. So getting that, college football, NFL, fantasy football, betting on football, all of that is definitely a huge fun time of the year. And before we know it, it'll be September and there'll be time for the Bills Rams opening night on September 8th, and then we'll get our first 7 hours of commercial-free football a few days later after that.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting time right now. I definitely agree with you. This is kind of the more exciting times for baseball right now as we hit the trade deadline. Then football literally right around the corner starting on Thursday. And then as we get more and more into training camp, we're seeing some position battles kind of clear up a little bit. And then now potentially trade rumors are kind of, lingering as well, potentially for, quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. But I want to keep on the 49ers for a little bit. Obviously, bigger news yesterday, Deebo Samuel getting his bag. Deebo Samuel got that 3-year extension, I think worth up to $73.5 million. I mean, pretty much we all saw Deebo was kind of the only one trying to, get his bag, and he got it. So, Ari, what do you think here? What do you like about this? Obviously, this is something that has kind of been one of the more prevalent things this offseason is what are the Niners going to do with Deebo Samuel since the beginning of the offseason where it was a trade request for him to be out of San Francisco to somehow mutually agreeing to a 3-year extension. How did we get here? But Ari, great move. And obviously, one thing to note, he does get rushing incentives as well. So something to note, he's definitely going to be running the ball kind of, how they were last year, making him that kind of utility wide receiver running back player that he was last year. And that's how he just dominated. So Ari, what are your thoughts on his incentives and what do you think of this contract for him?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the rushing incentive, I think is definitely noteworthy for fantasy football because originally his frustrations had to do with wanting to be a pure wide receiver and not kind of be used, in that way. So getting that rushing incentive definitely makes it pretty known that he's going to maybe not have as big of a role in the rushing game as he had last year, but at least enough to where it will definitely make a difference on his fantasy value and all of that. I mean, I never took to heart too much of him like requesting out and all that. I always thought that they were going to get a deal done. It was just kind of a matter of kind of when, not if a deal gets done. And so it's definitely good that they got it done now and not, closer to the season so that he still, because he reported to camp, but he wasn't like really doing all the on-field, drills and all that with the 49ers. So now that they can get that, now that they got that deal out of the way and all of that, that can be put behind them. It's definitely a good thing, especially as we get into, fantasy draft season coming up normally mid to late August into, the first week of September. Because, even though I expected the deal to get done, it was never necessarily a lock or a guarantee, you can say. And so just to have it out of the way is definitely kind of a sigh of relief for those who have Deebo in keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, and then, for those in redraft leagues looking to target him this season.
Yeah, definitely a great lock for that Niners organization, locking pretty much the biggest asset on offense. And, you mentioned that also, makes everything around that offense a lot better because, obviously now that we've evolved into the Trey Lance era, he has his ability to scramble. He definitely is going to be a quarterback to potentially target in fantasy football leagues this year. And then you have, the rushing attack. It sounds like Elijah Mitchell is going to be that lead guy, but that Niners backfield, it kind of changes week to week. We never really know who's going to be the true 3-down back for that organization. But then on offense, you still have Deebo Samuel, you still have George Kittle, you still have Brandon Ayuk. Definitely have some stars on that offense. So, the Niners are definitely going to be a team to not mess with on offense because of what they did last year. And now, evolving into a more kind of not a diversified, but more, evolving West Coast style of football with, more quarterback scrambles since they have that ability in Trey Lance. But I want to go to another wide receiver in the NFC West who got his bag recently, DK Metcalf. He got his 3-year, $73 million extension from the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, that was kind of the one thing that was kind of looming throughout the Seattle organization is, were we really going to pay DK Metcalf? And was he going to give him? Speaking of him, I might as well pick him right now. So, and now he's locked as a Seahawk for 3 more years. Obviously, this is great on both sides, in my opinion. We get a great wide receiver right now for 3 more years to kind of evolve. Maybe whoever going to be the quarterback in 2024, in the 2023-2024 season, depending on where we land in the draft. But I think this is a great deal between two great organizations. Ari, what do you think of this deal for DK Metcalf?
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who are kind of suggesting that the Seahawks should trade Metcalf. And, of course, for the right return, I think anybody you could trade, to an extent. But, you have to build around somebody. And I think, a younger receiver like Metcalf and then the stability of Tyler Lockett, you kind of need that, for a younger quarterback or inexperienced quarterback, whether it be Drew Lock or Geno Smith. And then, the plan is that if the lock doesn't work out this year, then you potentially look at quarterback in the quarterback class next year in the 2023 NFL draft. So I think whether it's for Drew Lock, for the future, if he surprises people, or if it's for a rookie quarterback, next season, I think having those two locked up, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, is going to be huge for whoever that quarterback is. I mean, you have to spend money somewhere. They obviously got rid of a lot of money, on the cap trading Russell Wilson. And so I think, it was another thing like Debo where it was a matter of kind of when, not if. And so, yeah, it was good to see the deal get done, like I said, with Debo early on in training camp and not, closer to the season where there's more drama of if it would hold out into the season or, it's good just to get it done.
Yeah, definitely. Great to see DK get his bag heading into the upcoming season. And as also, we'll probably go over as well, probably the latest on some position battles as well. Based on what we're seeing in camp. I want to start with the Ravens backfield, Ari. Obviously, kind of a mess right now. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are both on the PUP list, and it looks like J.K. Dobbins is recovering a lot faster than Gus Edwards, obviously, since Gus Edwards tore his ACL a little after Dobbins. But, there's still hesitation on, whether or not Dobbins will be ready enough to start the season. He says he's ready, but, medical reports and, trainers can say another thing because, that's kind of how it is. But, definitely something to really note. And then, obviously, they have Mike Davis, the veteran himself, and then they have their 6th-round pick. I forgot his name. So, Ari, what do you say about the Ravens backfield right now as we head into the month of August? Is it still something to kind of completely avoid or kind of monitor as we head into the season?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Dobbins a lot on here. It sounds like he's on track. I just realized that for some reason the tight end spot didn't register on here, so I guess we'll go with a tight end for this mock draft, but I don't know why that happened. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it sounds like Gus Edwards is going to miss. I saw a report that he's expected to miss a chunk of the season. So whatever that means, at least in the early part of the season. And then J.K. Dobbins is on track to be ready for week 1, barring any setbacks. And then they signed Mike Davis this offseason, and then they drafted Tyler Beatty, I think, in the 6th round, I think he said. So, I mean, this is offense we know that wants to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to look to get more run heavy back this year after late last season. They're kind of moving to a more pass heavy offense. So I think whether it's just Mike Davis, just Beatty, or both of them, I think we'll definitely see either one or both, kind of see a prominent role early in the season. And then, as Gus Edwards gets healthy, and then we'll see Dobbins lead the backfield, of course. But I think at least one of them is going to have, a pretty big role behind Dobbins. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson will have his role in the rushing game as usual. I don't really see any fantasy appeal in Mike Davis or Beatty really outside of, super, super, super deep leagues. But, yeah, man, I'm still nervous about Dobbins this year coming off the ACL. But, obviously I hope he can stay healthy. I don't wish injury on anyone. It's just coming off an ACL. But like you said, he suffered it so early last season that, it is possible he comes back right away and is himself immediately. I'm not sure if he's going to play at all in the preseason at all or not, but, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you there. It's definitely something to really monitor, as the season goes, as the preseason goes on. But I want to talk about something that came out this morning. Obviously, the whole Deshaun Watson situation. Finally, I don't think it's come to a full resolve, but it seems like it is coming to a resolve. Breaking today, Deshaun Watson has officially been suspended a total of 6 games right now on paper. Whether that's the first or last, we don't know, but we would assume it'd be the first 6 games of the regular season. So right now, obviously, there were so many talks about full season or 12 games, 8 games, 14 games, whatever amount of games. I heard fines as well. And then, obviously, we only saw that he is only going to be suspended 6 games. And notice the one thing that the judge did not take into account was the amount of cases that she took into her decision. She only took a certain few that were still active, so that may have played a role in how many how real the suspension was. But we finally have a number. It is going to be 6 games for Deshaun Watson. So he'll be eligible to come back. What would that be? That would be week
7.
Yeah, if they do not have a bye that week, he'll be. I think that would be against the Ravens. That's what I heard. That week 7 game, so he'll be able to come back then. But Ari, after all this, we finally have something. But it's definitely a concern to really evaluate how Deshaun Watson's going to be playing this season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say too much about all the legal side of this. I thought it was going to be like 8 to 10 games. I was surprised there's only 6 games, but we can only go. And like you said, it's not official yet, but I think I heard that like what Roger Goodell and the Watson and NFLPA agreed that they wouldn't really appeal no matter what it was. So chances are it's going to be 6 games, which is probably, putting all the ethical side and all of that to the side is probably best case scenario for just fantasy purposes. I think Watson, he's going to pull out when he comes back. Obviously, he's going to have missed about a year and a half. So there's some concern of that, of, being a little bit rusty when he first comes back. But either way, it's best case scenario, especially in dynasty leagues with, Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. In early mock drafts and early leagues, we've kind of seen Cooper and even Chubb slide a lot more than I think we're going to see them go, come later this month, September, now that we know the official suspension, most likely. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised about the length of it, but nothing that we can do, obviously, about it. We can only react to the news. And so, yeah, I think, it's definitely a best case scenario for fantasy purposes for all the offensive players.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to kind of wait and evaluate, because you mentioned Goodell and the NFLPA still have to really evaluate if they want to fully go with the judge order suspension, because obviously they could go a little more, a little less. Kind of all depends on that. I'm seeing a comment right now saying, you guys talk about the Eagles backfield, just drafted Sanders here, but I heard Gainwell is getting the first team reps, so I'm not sure if Sanders is actually a good target. Honestly, I'm staying away from the Eagles backfield this year. I feel like they're transitioning to more of a pass-heavy offense with bringing in A.J. Brown. They have Jalen Hurts, who has his ability to scramble. That's already taking away, the rushing ability of Miles Sanders. And then you mentioned it, Sanders isn't even really getting, as well as Gainwell, he's getting first-team reps. Personally, I would stay away from Miles Sanders in fantasy just because, that offense is transitioning, and I feel like, Miles Sanders is going to get the rough end of the stick per se. And since it's going to be pass heavy, that's why I think Gainwell is probably getting a lot more first team reps since it's going to be a pass heavy offense for Jalen Brown, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown, along with Dallas Goedert still. So they definitely have the weapons to be that. Now it's definitely kind of more on Jalen Hurts to really step up, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I definitely would just stay away from the Eagles' backfield. And it's always definitely been a little bit inconsistent for Miles Sanders as of recent anyway. And I feel like he's just trending in the wrong direction. So I definitely would just stay away from him. Ari?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're gonna go from I think last year they were led the league in or in rush attempts. I don't think they're gonna do a full 360 and now be a pass heavy team. I think it's gonna be just a little bit more kind of balance between the two. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're seeing Sanders fall far. I see you took him at 6.6 here. I've seen him fall even as the 8th, 9th round, in some mocks. So, I mean, I think I always say at the right value, any player's worth taking at the right value. It looks like you kind of went more of the hero running back where you take, your one running back early and then kind of wait, for your RB2. So, I feel like Sanders is kind of a decent target, in that right. I think in that sense, though, it would be good. Maybe not in this mock because we're only doing 5 bench spots, but in general, maybe to kind of draft both Sanders and Gainwell kind of later to kind of ensure yourself, even though even those two, there's still Boston Scott, there's still other running backs that have a role. But I mean, I think there's a world where Sanders can be in RB2, kind of mid to low in RB2 this year. I think it's mostly, kind of about the touchdowns because we're kind of seeing a lot of just kind of whether it's Jalen Hurts or Gainwell kind of getting the looks around the goal line, on the ground. And so, I mean, it's obviously a frustrating situation, for fantasy purposes in the Eagles' backfield. I mean, even though Gainwell is getting first team reps, that was one day. So I still think Sanders is going to be the 1A, in the Eagles' backfield. But, I think we all know the clear risk of that backfield. But, if Sanders falls, maybe to the 7th or 8th round, I consider him at that point. Maybe late 6th round, but Sanders isn't a player that I necessarily plan on targeting, but I wouldn't say I'm going to completely avoid him if he's going to fall to the 7th, 8th round consistently. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I kind of more agree on that. I mean, I'm not going to say avoid him at all costs because I know he does bring some value, but I'd definitely say if it's not in the first, let's say 5, 6 rounds, if it's in the first 5, I would definitely avoid him because there's definitely more value in that range for around 5 and 6 round, maybe even 4. But for after 7, maybe 6, 7, that could be a nice steal. Maybe bench him as a roster slot on the bench to see how he really performs throughout the beginning part of the season. But definitely still, I would definitely just kind of tread lightly, on the backfield, just because you really don't know what they're really going to utilize Miles Sanders for. And I feel like that definitely will play a huge role into how this Eagles offense goes forward without him, potentially, and more with excuse me, sorry, I'm making my pick here, and more with that pass heavy. I mean, they just paid AJ Brown a bag, so they definitely see him as definitely part of that trio, along with Devontae Smith the second year, and then Jalen Hurts, bettering himself as a quarterback. So, I just feel like this offense is going to be so pass heavy in the future that, I don't really feel as if Miles Sanders may be utilized as he really is. But we have another question here. This is kind of a question that we kind of talked about before, but this on the Broncos now. Who do we like between Judy and Sutton more. This is honestly kind of a hard one for me because it's definitely more like a DK Tyler Lockett situation to an extent. In Seattle, you definitely have two top wide receiver twos, and both Sutton and Judy, in my opinion. You could either go either way. I would definitely lean towards Sutton just a little more, just because I feel like Sutton definitely has that upside, and Jerry Judy with his off the field issues may be playing a role, but obviously it's going to be maybe more kind of the consistent receiver role. Maybe Sutton for weeks, and then obviously you can switch to Judy. Maybe Sutton goes down and Judy becomes at number one, and then vice versa. I would say Sutton for now. I would just lean towards Sutton just because I feel like that connection is going to be a little bit stronger. But I'm not going to rule out Judy in case something happens throughout the preseason and the regular season. But for now, I definitely lean toward Cortland Sutton. Ari?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the similar boat. Like, I definitely lean Sutton like straight up between the two. But I agree that, obviously Russell's going to make both of them, fantasy relevant. And, there can be weeks where one goes off one week and the other has a better week the next week. I just think Sutton, and I put out confidence on Instagram, but I think Sutton just on the outside is going to kind of profile more for Russell Wilson. As just kind of a more consistent target. And then, you've had Jerry Sutton's more proven. He's had a 1,000-yard season. Judy obviously hasn't had, the QB situation, but neither did Sutton when he had his 1,000-yard season. So it's just a couple different variables, just, size, play style, quarterback proof as Sutton's proven to be. And now Sutton's over a year removed from the torn ACL. Last year, he's a little bit hampered, from the torn ACL that he suffered the year before. And so now, after having to rehab last offseason, this offseason, he doesn't have to go through all of that process. And so Sutton, for me, is just a bit more – I just see a bit more upside in him, especially in the touchdown department. I think, we saw DK Metcalf, get utilized heavily in the red zone with Russell Wilson. And I think Sutton is going to be used similarly. I think Sutton's touchdown prop is like 5.5. So I think that's a pretty easy over for those who bet. There's over 5.5 touchdowns for Sutton this season. I'm not sure if it got bumped up or not, but yeah, that's a prop I like. But yeah, I just see a bit more upside in Cortland Sutton this year, but it's definitely arguable.
Yeah, it is definitely arguable either way. That's something that we've been kind of tackling throughout the off season. Who's going to be Russell Wilson's favorite target, either Jerry Judy or Cortland Sutton. But like I said, I feel like it could be one of those situations where Jerry Judy is the deep ball guy and Cortland Sutton is the one getting more receptions, or vice versa. And it can change week to week depending on what happens throughout the regular season and how they really evaluate those organizations. But it doesn't hurt to really evaluate what's really going on between Judy and Sutton. Personally, they're still going to be both pretty relevant in that offense, as those two are definitely going to be the top two receivers for Russell Wilson. So I feel like it's kind of pick your poison, like who do you want more. But I'm definitely leaning towards Sutton as well as a potential draft pick, in my opinion.
So we're just finishing up the second to last round, and then we'll go over each team that's not on auto pick. So it looks like there's one auto, so we'll go over the other 11 teams as we close up this draft and get to the last round and 2 more picks.
And look at this, Ari. I just saw this on Twitter. We have first images of Luis Castillo in a Mariner jersey. Here it is. Mariner faithful. This is a proud moment for us. Luis Castillo is officially a member of the Mariners organization. Just something great to see. He will make the start on Wednesday, as we talked about. Definitely going to be one to really tune into, in my opinion, to really see, what this guy is made of, especially in a stacked New York Yankees lineup that has, guys like Stanton, Aaron Judge, the best hitter in baseball right now. Well, excuse me, the best home run hitter in baseball right now.
Stanton's hurt now, so Mariners won't be facing him, but the rest of the lineup.
But maybe next week we'll see how he is healthy for next week, since the Mariners will be playing this Yankees team in T-Mobile Park a week from today for a 3-game series. Yeah. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how this Mariners team does after taking 1 out of 4 on the road in Houston to wrap up the season series. Heartbreaking loss yesterday, so we'll see how this Mariners team moves on heading into the final part of the regular season. Obviously the Mariners have the easiest second half schedule. Not only playing a team above 500, except for Atlanta and San Diego in September at home. So, definitely have a home field advantage there. But other than that, not really any teams that are really needed to mention. So definitely going to be interesting to see how the Mariners do in the second half. We have high hopes here as we enter kind of the harder stretch for this team, playing New York twice and then playing, the Angels in between for 4 games. But this mock draft has wrapped up, and we're going to go start out our reviews. We're going to go to Cole Volkers. We're going to go to your team first. Since you had the first overall pick, we're going to go one by one. So he drafted Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara 1-2, and then he went 3 wide receivers with Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy back-to-back in the first, in the third and fourth. Not back-to-back. After the long chain, 3rd round and 4th round Jerry Jeudy, and then start out the 5th. Went with A-Rob, and then went with T.J. Hawkinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Cook, and Ramondre Stevenson, and then wrapped up with Derek Carr and, of course, the aforementioned guy we just talked about, Deshaun Watson. Ari, what are your thoughts on this team right here first and foremost?
Yeah, just some news that we didn't go over yet, but it was, I forgot the exact piece of news, but it was like Alvin Kamara, the court date or the hearing, something like that, was going to be pushed back 2 months. So that takes you into October. And so now it's possible that his suspension isn't this season and gets pushed to next season, 2023. And so if that's the case, then Kamara is definitely, a great value at 2.12. I think most people are still a little bit confused. Like, even I don't really know how to kind of value him this year. Well, at least as of yet, just kind of because it's possible even a suspension could be handed to him like mid-season. There's a chance that happens. So, I think at this point, like late round 2, I'm definitely fine, taking that chance in Kamara. So you got Taylor, Kamara. I mentioned before that for some reason this mock didn't have a tight end spot, so we'll just kind of go with that. But then you got Mike Evans as your wide receiver 1. And then Jeudy at wide receiver 2 and Allen Robinson at flex. And then we'll just say Hawkinson at tight end. And I like the value of Carr and Watson a lot this late in the 10th, 11th round. I like the running back depth with Ramondre Stevenson in the 9th round. I like the Juju pick in the 7th round. So I think it's a pretty overall kind of well-balanced, steady team overall. Obviously, for me, McCaffrey's my number 1, but I have Taylor number 2, so it's definitely arguable, with Taylor number 1. So you can't really go wrong there. So yeah, pretty balanced study overall. I like it.
I was gonna say the same thing. You can't go wrong with Jonathan Taylor 1.01. He's pretty much kind of either him or CMC for the first overall pick in most leagues. So you can't go wrong there. Obviously, the news about Alvin Kamara, potentially his suspension kind of being pushed back or maybe not even happening. So for this season, so that's definitely some big news there. And then Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy. We already talked about Jerry Jeudy. He's definitely going to be a good wide receiver too. And then Allen Robinson is definitely a name at the Rams camp that is definitely buzzing right now in terms of how well he's producing. So that could potentially be a huge steal maybe later. But taking him early, I don't blame you there. Obviously taking a tight end, but I didn't take a tight end personally. But T.J. Hawkinson is a great selection right there in the 6th. I do like the Juju pick as well. And then you have James Cook and, Ramondre Stevenson for depth. And then obviously Deshaun Watson coming back. That is week 7 right now. And then Derek Carr late 10th round value. That's great for him. He's going to have a great year with Devontae Adams. So, yeah, very well-rounded team. I agree with you. Yeah, very well-rounded team here. But we're going to get into our next team here. This is at Fat Boy 311. This is their team. They went with CMC as the first pick in their for their team. Then Saquon Barkley at 2, and then went with Keenan Allen, and then J.K. Dobbins. Then went both back-to-back with Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins before getting Tony Pollard. Then selecting Christian Kirk, Matthew Stafford, getting some depth in J.D. McKissick, and then finally finishing with Dawson Knox in a bench slot or potentially tight end slot. Ari, what are your thoughts on this team right here?
Yeah, I mean the top 2 starts about as good as it gets. We're starting to see Barkley kind of move back into the kind of mid part of the second round, so they get him there at 2.11. I like a lot from a value standpoint. I think that's a really, really dangerous, 1-2 duo. Keenan Allen, should be safe as always. J.K. Dobbins at the end of the 4th round, that value I'm fine with. I personally like Josh Jacobs over him. Not coming off an injury, on a better offense. And I mean, I'd say less of a committee, but I guess the Raiders could be a pretty big committee this year, but I don't know. I still like Jacobs over Dobbins. Cooper around 5, I like now a lot, with Deshaun Watson only getting suspended 6 games. I'm fine, stashing Hopkins late 6th round. I like the Pollard pick. I like the Stafford pick. Christian Kirk and McKissick are not 2 players that I really like personally. I don't really see too much upside in them. And then Knox, I think, is fine. I see Kmet and Ertz went earlier, so Knox in the 11th round is, fine.
Yeah. Sorry, I was moving real quick. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Taking Chris CMC and Saquon. Obviously, you're a little higher than me than I am on them. But obviously, you can't go wrong with CMC at number 2. That was pretty much consensus as well. So, I definitely like that 1-2 combo as well. And then obviously taking the risk in J.K. Dobbins in the 4th round, and that's okay and all as well. But there's definitely some risk there. Obviously, we've talked about J.K. Dobbins' injury and him, coming back. But is he really healthy? Is he really ready? There's that question. But yeah, Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper, I definitely both see as some question marks as well for those teams, especially Amari Cooper. But I mean, it's only going to be probably the first 6 games, depending on the full extent of the Deshaun Watson suspension. So we'll see how that goes and how that plays out. But it's going to be him, and then you have DeAndre Hopkins, who's also suspended for the first 6 games. So you'll have pretty much your wide receivers will have a big game week 7 with D Hop coming back and potentially Amari Cooper getting his quarterback back. But I mean, you can't go with Matthew Stafford that late in value. That's a great value pick right there. And then J.D. McKissick, good depth in the 10th round, and then finishing with Dawson Knox. That's a great value for tight end spot. So other than, the wide receiver depth a little bit, you really can't go wrong with this team right here. It's definitely a lot more, well-rounded at the top. And especially, Tony Pollard as well, he has some potential value. The only thing I definitely, kind of agree with you is Christian Kirk. That's definitely one of the big questions. But overall, I like this team as well in terms of the 1-2 combo at the running back position. Definitely one of the better teams there. But we're going to the next team here. This is no HX, just skills. This is their team. They went with Cooper Kupp in the 1st round, then went to Nick Chubb, and then A.J. Brown in the 3rd, and then Darren Waller in the 4th, went Josh Jacobs in the 5th, Jalen Hurts, and then back-to-back wide receivers in Drake London and Tyler Lockett before selecting Dallas Goedert, and then went with Aaron Rodgers and Christian Watson. Ari, what are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stands out to me is only 2 running backs, which is a bit, of a concern, just the lack of depth. Obviously, maybe we have 2 more bench spots normally, in a longer mock, but I mean, I probably would have looked to get running back maybe over Tyler Lockett or Christian Watson, late. I mean, I like the start with Kupp and Chubb. I personally like T. Higgins over A.J. Brown, but Brown's going to give you those, big explosive weeks, just also maybe some, down weeks. I like the value of both Waller and Jacobs. I like Hurts. I like London. I don't think a backup quarterback and tight ends is necessary, but you might have just done that from a value standpoint, getting them, as late as you did. And I like the Goddard pick. Maybe Rodgers. Maybe I would have went running back over Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, overall, outside of the obvious and the lack of running back depth, I think it's pretty solid overall. I like most of the selections. I just might have went differently with a couple of them. Like I said, maybe running back over Lockett, Aaron Rodgers, or Christian Watson. Maybe one or two of those.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on all of that. I mean, Cooper Cup is solid at wide receiver one. He's definitely going to have some good numbers next year. You mentioned A.J. Brown at wide receiver two, definitely solid. I definitely would have also agreed maybe T. Higgins before him. He definitely has that better upside for the upcoming season. But Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs, definitely Nick Chubb is a little bit more scary of a risk just because, with the whole Deshaun Watson situation and that offense is going to be, not as bright as it's going to be after week 6. So it's definitely going to be rough throughout the first weeks. But Josh Jacobs is a sneaky running back too. Could eventually be kind of leader in that backfield for the Raiders this coming year. And then Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. Definitely more pass heavy offense. Drake London and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, I'm a little concerned about just because he used to be that deep ball threat for Russell Wilson, but now since he's going to have probably either Geno Smith or Drew Lock right now as the quarterback for Week 1 heading on, it's definitely a big question on how that connection is going to establish and in terms of his value because, Tyler Lockett, he can get 200 yards and 3 touchdowns one week, and then the next week he can get, two receptions for 15 yards and only have a fantasy points or so. That's definitely something to really take in. But Dallas Goedert, great pairing for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, that connection's worked out well for Philly. Aaron Rodgers, definitely.
I just realized he has all 3 of the Eagles: Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Goddard.
I want to say, you definitely have the top 3 for. You want Devontae Smith too? You can have that whole pass attack for the Eagles. But yeah, definitely, Dallas Goedert as well. You have Aaron Rodgers. Great value pick in the 10th round, and then Christian Watson to pair with Aaron Rodgers. That could be that. We've talked about how Aaron Rodgers is not really, aforementioned to be well with wide receivers in the rookie years. But now that no Devontae Adams is there, we have to see who will step up. A lot of people say Alan Lazard is going to be the guy to step up for that new passing for that Packers receiving core. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see what happens throughout that camp. So now I love this team name. I saw it earlier. This team is called Pitts Out for the Boys. Obviously, a play for Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons organization. So this person, maybe an Atlanta Falcons fan, but we're going to judge the team here first. They went with Justin Jefferson. Jay Jetta's great pick right there, obviously. And then went back-to-back running backs with Fournette and Ezekiel Elliott before getting Justin Herbert in the 4th round. I believe he was the second quarterback taken off the board. Then went with Mike Williams and Dalton Schultz, and then Cordell Patterson, and then 3 wide receivers in a row with Robert Woods, Chris Olave, and Russell Gage, before ending with Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ari, what are your thoughts on this team right here?
I like the Jefferson pick in the 1st round. He's my number 3 overall player this year, so I like him in that top 3 to 5 range. Looking at the 2nd and 3rd round, I personally like Saquon Barkley over Fournette, and then James Conner over Ezekiel Elliott. So that's kind of just a matter of preference at that point. I'm definitely cool with the value of Herbert in the late 4th round. Mike Williams, you get the stack with Herbert. I'm not huge on Mike Williams this year. I think he's going to continue just kind of being consistent, on a week-to-week basis. But he obviously has that upside on any given week, to explode. So you got that as your wide receiver 2. I like Schultz in the late 6th round. Cordell Patterson in the 7th round I don't mind in PPRs or RB3. I don't love that offense outside of Kyle Pitts, and then maybe Drake London later. Um, I just don't see a ton of upside in him or Robert Woods there back to back. But then I don't mind the Olave, Gage, and Rashad White, to close those last 3 picks. So, I might have looked for a little bit more upside in that 7th, 8th round range. But other than, maybe a matter of preference in that 2nd and 3rd round of Barkley over Fournette and Connor over Elliott. But again, it's a matter of preference. So, that's that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Starting out, Jetta's top 5 fantasy this year, so you can't go wrong with that. Fournette and Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, I feel like if you get Zeke, I feel like you kind of not have to, but I feel like Tony Pollard should definitely be a draft pick for your team, just because Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard is going to be evolving to more time in that backfield, so that's definitely something to keep well of. I don't mind Justin Herbert as well for that value. He's definitely going to be one of the more dark horse candidates this year. He kind of always is, but he always produces some big numbers for that Chargers offense, and I feel like that team as a whole just got so much better. So that's definitely something to watch out for. And then obviously you pair him up with Mike Williams, so definitely a great 1-2 combo there. And we mentioned throughout the beginning half of the season last year, those two had a great relationship. It looked like, I think it was Mike Williams was the wide receiver 1, I believe, for a good portion of that year of that season. So for last season, so you can't go wrong there. You also have Dalton Schultz. I believe he is. Is he still on the tag? Have the Cowboys not have paid him, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're definitely going to be playing with an edge on his shoulder this year, potentially as he's trying to get his money as well. And then Cordell Patterson for that value, I don't really like as well. I feel like Cordell Patterson in that backfield is going to be a lot outshined, but obviously he's an Atlanta Falcons fan, so maybe he knows more than Cordell Patterson this year than we do. So if you're going to camp, maybe you tell us what's going on with Cordell Patterson, and we'll report it for us. But there's definitely some questions there. Personally, I like Tyler Algier. Out of BYU. He can definitely be something out of that backfield as well. And then you went with Robert Woods, Olave, and Gage, 1, 2, 3. Definitely great wide receiver depth. Robert Woods kind of has a ceiling, especially now that Traylon Burks is there. Ryan Tannehill, not the quarterback that a lot of people imagine him to be for that Tennessee offense. But Chris Olave, definitely a sleeper for the rookie wide receivers this year. I feel like him or Garrett Wilson will have some great seasons, along with potentially Traylon Burks as well. And then you end it with Gage and White, both on Tampa Bay. Gage may be a little outshined just because that offense now has a little more stacked with Julio Jones, and then potentially Chris Godwin making a return for week 1 after his speedy recovery. So kind of maybe leave Russell Gage out of that conversation. Then good backfield depth and Rashad White, the running back for that backfield. I feel like this team, maybe the running back depth is a little light, but definitely a great wide receiver core. You can't really complain on that. And now next is my team. So this is what I did. I first went with Derrick Henry, and then I selected Tyreek Hill in the 2nd round, and then I selected James Conner, then DK Metcalf. As I was talking about him, what a surprise! And then I went with Antonio Gibson, Darnell Mooney, and then I went with Russell Wilson, Damian Harris, Garrett Wilson, Darrell Henderson, and Chase Claypool. Ari, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, the first couple of picks I personally would have went elsewhere. I have Dalvin Cook at number 5 for me overall personally, and then followed by Eckler and Chase. And then I would have went with, running back like Barkley, Chubb, Fournette over Tyreek Hill in round 2. It's all, like I said, it's all preference at the end of the day. I like the Connor and Metcalf pick, and then Gibson. I've never seen him fall that late. It seems like a lot of people are down on him, which is causing him to fall, extremely. He went from like a late 3rd, early 4th round pick to a mid 5th round pick, which is pretty crazy to see. I like the Mooney Wilson pick. I don't mind Damian Harris in the 8th round, Garrett Wilson, Darrell Henderson. So I like the depth overall on your team. So it's really just a couple of picks early that I personally would have went elsewhere. But overall, I like it.
Yeah, I just feel, from what I've seen out of that Dolphins camp, Tyreek Hill and Tua, they seem to have a little bit of a connection forming. So, that could definitely be, something to really note. And, Derrick Henry with that foot injury, that's definitely something to really note as well because, we really don't know his status. But, yeah, that was kind of where I was headed for. But now we're going to get into the next team. This is at Trev 17. This is their team. They first went with Jamar Chase, and then back-to-back running backs in Javonte Williams and Breece Hall before selecting George Kittle, and then Marquise Brown, Joe Burrow, and then Rashad Bateman and Devontae Smith before Damian Pierce, Michael Carter, and then Jamison Williams. Ari, what are your thoughts on this team?
I like the first two picks of Jamar Chase and Javonte Williams, and then I'm fine with Breece Hall too in round 3. I don't mind the Kittle value, in the 4th round. Marquise Brown, I think he can definitely earn that value early in the season, but I think season long term is my biggest worry of Marquise Brown. So I personally probably would have went with someone like Brandon Cooks in that range, just kind of like a safer wide receiver too. I like Burrow. I like Bateman. I'm fine with Devontae Smith that late. Um, I'm not like huge on Pierce or Carter, but they're fine, that late. And then Jamison Williams coming off a torn ACL. I'm not targeting him at all in redraft this year. I think this is going to be kind of a lost rookie season for him personally, especially with Detroit having, Amon-Ra, Hawkinson, Shark, Swift. They didn't really have to rush back Jamison Williams, so I don't really see him playing a huge role, at all in his rookie year this season. But, it's the 11th round, so most players are darters at that point. But, I see Gallup went the next pick. I personally like Gallup over Williams, but, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Definitely a lot of upside in Javonte Williams, but Breece Hall definitely a name to kind of watch out for just because, that backfield is definitely a little more stacked as it is.
I just realized. Oh, okay. I see he drafted Carter because of Breece Hall, so that makes more sense. So, yeah.
I was literally about to say, but drafting Michael Carter is a nice handcuff. Definitely a great strategy there. You can't go wrong with Jamar Chase, pretty much one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. Definitely a top 3, and then Marquise Brown as a wide receiver too. It's definitely a risk just because I don't believe him and Kyler Murray really are going to have a great connection just because of the different play styles. Then as soon as DeAndre Hopkins comes back, I feel it's going to be the Kyler and DeAndre show again. So definitely something to watch out there for. But it makes up for having the Burrow to Chase duo. That's definitely going to rack up very, very a lot of fantasy points each week with that offense. And then George Kittle, definitely a great tight end, definitely a top 5 tight end. And then the bench, you have Devontae Smith, and then great value for him, and then Rashad Bateman as well. Rashad Bateman's kind of a bigger question just because of how Lamar Jackson's going to be in that offense. As he really leans toward his tight ends and his running ability a lot. Then obviously I agree with you on Jamison Williams. I feel like this is going to be a lost year just because of that torn ACL and how already stacked that Detroit offense is kind of becoming with DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's more names in that Detroit locker room than I feel like James Williams is going to be a little overshadowed, so I'm definitely avoiding him as well. So I definitely agree with you there. But now we're going to move on to Playzell 17. This is their team. They first went with Dalvin Cook and then went back-to-back with, 4 wide receivers in a row with Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Godwin before selecting Miles Sanders in RB2, then Devin Singletary, and then Dak Prescott before selecting Isaiah Spiller, Alexander Madison, and then Michael Gallup to round out this team. Ari, what are your quick thoughts here?
Yeah, this is the hero running back that we were talking about a bit earlier. I like the Cook, Deebo, T. Higgins picks. I'm just kind of looking at kind of what running backs are available in that 4th, 5th round range. And there's definitely, not much there. Maybe Josh Jacobs over, that would be Josh Jacobs over, I guess, Waddle, maybe. But I don't mind this. I'm trying to see if there's a running back I would have went over in either of these two. I mean, I
Miles,
probably would have. Yeah, were you gonna say something?
oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about the Phillies, Philadelphia backfield, but keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I probably maybe would have taken Melvin Gordon over Singletary. I just think he has a safer role in an offense that's going to run the ball, I think, a little bit more in Denver than Buffalo. But I like the Spiller and Madison picks late a lot, too high upside, late round running backs. I like Gallup late. So, I mean, overall, I mean, obviously there's a clear hole at running back, too, but I think that you can fill that with one of who you have, Sanders, Singletary, Spiller, or Madison. And then obviously you would have trades, usually, if it's a real league. So, I mean, I don't mind it, especially just given who's available, at each of your picks.
I mean, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. You have the value in the wide receivers right there. Once you want pretty much your first, your second through fifth round picks. So, and then that kind of leaves you in a position where, okay, what's your running back two going to be looking like? And Miles Sanders obviously very big concern there, but you mentioned there's trades. Some people can emerge on the waiver wire. We'll see. We don't really know that yet. But I definitely like the depth in Isaiah Spiller and the handcuff in Alexander Madison for Dalvin Cook. And then Michael Gallup as well. Definitely like that as well. So I like this team as well. Just a little bit of a concern for that running back two position. Definitely something to really take into account. But now we're going to get into the next team. This is Gavin Vaughn, I believe. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Gavin Vaughn's team. They first went with Aaron Jones, and then no, wait, excuse me. I even forgot the first pick. They first went with Devontae Adams, then went with Aaron Jones, back-to-back wide receivers in Terry McLaurin and Courtland Sutton, and then going with Kenneth Walker in the fifth round before selecting Patrick Mahomes, and then going with Gabriel Davis, Hunter Renfrow, Cole Kmet, Tyler Algier in the 10th round, and then to finish off going with Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the 11th. Ari, what are your thoughts here on this team?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stands out is Kenneth Walker as your RB2, and then only Algier as the backup to, on your bench. I like Kenneth Walker a lot, and it's definitely possible that he does emerge as a select running back one, maybe by the middle of the season, a little before that potentially. But I definitely do not feel comfortable having him as your immediate RB2. I think it's more ideal to have him as your RB3, is normally where he goes. So I mean, in hindsight, I probably would have rather taken Mixon number 9 if I was you, and then have him and Aaron Jones your RB1, RB2, and then I'm fine with McLaurin and Sutton as your one wide receiver 2, and then Kenneth Walker there as your RB3 is what I'm fine with. And I like Mahomes, I like Davis, I like Renfro, I like Kmet. So I like a lot of the mid-round value, after Walker. I mean, maybe you could have attempted to wait and see if you could have gotten Walker in the 6th round, but if you like him a lot, then you want to secure him and not take that chance. So I get that. But yeah, I mean, I like the team a lot overall outside of that running back situation. But maybe Kenneth Walker emerges early in the first few weeks, and this kind of plan can pan out. So it's possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the running back depth. I like Kenneth Walker, but I've seen reports that Rashad Penny is going to be kind of the lead back, or have a really prominent role in that backfield. So that's definitely a risk there. But you can't go wrong with Devontae Adams and Terry McLaurin as a great 1-2 combination. Then having Courtland Sutton as the flex potentially. Other than that, yes, the running back depth. I like everything after Walker. Mahomes in the 6th round, and then Davis, Renfro, Cole Kmet, Algier as well late, and then Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Very good team. Very good depth after the 5th round. But now we're going to get into your team, Ari. So this is what you did. You drafted Joe Mixon, and then you went with Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore before going with David Montgomery, and then you went with Amon St. Brown in the 5th round. Then Kareem Hunt before Adam Thielen, and then Melvin Gordon and Brandon Ayuk before you selected Trey Lance and Kirk Cousins. Obviously, I'll go first right here. Obviously, Joe Mixon, great year last year. You pair him with David Montgomery, great running back options right there, 1-2 options. I definitely agree that David Montgomery can have great season potentially now for that Chicago Bears organization. And Joe Mixon, I feel like he's going to continue his dominant season last year. The only thing, obviously, is just can he stay healthy? He proved that last year, so we'll see how it goes this year. I mean, you go Stephon Diggs, arguably one of the best wide receivers in football. And then you have DJ Moore, obviously, who is a sneaky wide receiver too, just because of what he can bring to that Carolina organization throughout all the QB struggles. You have Amon St. Brown as a flex, solid option. I feel like he may get a little crowded in that organization, but he was Jared Goff's favorite target throughout the remaining parts of the end of the season. But they do bring in, I believe they brought in DJ Chark, so that can maybe mess up things for that connection, but we'll see. And then Kareem Hunt and Adam Thielen, obviously, solid 1-2 options right there. Adam Thielen, very touchdown dependent. And then Kareem Hunt, definitely more of a great 1-2 combo for that Cleveland backfield. And then Melvin Gordon, Brandon Ayuk, just more depth. Melvin Gordon could definitely rub some feathers for that Denver organization since he decided to stay. So that running back heavy offense may not be prevalent anymore. And then Brandon Ayuk, definitely he kind of got outshadowed last year, but he's still a solid wide receiver. And then you went with Trey Lance, to pair up with Brandon Ayuk, obviously a great solid option, but Trey Lance definitely kind of have a great season this year. The Niners, I said, it's his team. And then to back him up, you have Kirk Cousins to pair up with Adam Thielen as well. Solid quarterback option, Justin Jefferson and both Adam Thielen at his disposal. All right, what are your thoughts on your team here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty balanced, kind of boring team. I think, there's not a ton of upside with this team. I think it's pretty balanced. Like I said, there's guys I drafted here that I don't usually draft. Like, I don't love Amon-Ra this year. I don't love Thielen this year. But at that value in the late 5th and late 7th round, I thought, was fine, serviceable at that point. Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon are a couple of guys that are kind of landing on all of my teams I found this year. Just at those values, I think that they can both be, standalone flex plays any given week. And then if Nick Chubb or Javonte Williams were to miss time, then they could both immediately be, as high as RB1. So I like that kind of balance in those mid rounds of guys like Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard, guys who are going to have their guaranteed roles, no matter what. And then if the guy ahead of them was to miss time, and they would immediately vault into RB1, territory. And then, I've talked all offseason about how I like Trey Lance a lot this year in fantasy. And then I just got the security of Kirk Cousins behind them if anything happens to Lance or if he struggles early on. So, yeah, I mean, not the most exciting team, I think, overall, but I like it. I like it for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting into the next team here. This is Beyond Godlike. This is what they selected. They first went with Najee Harris in the first round before selecting Mark Andrews at 2.2. Very high right there, in my opinion.
That was, I think that was an auto pick too, just so you know. So I doubt that they wouldn't, unless they queued up Mark Andrews. I guess that's possible, but that was an auto pick. So
yeah, that's right. But then Travis Etienne after that, and then selecting Deontay Johnson and Michael Thomas as their first wide receivers, and then Lamar Jackson, Alan Lazard, Rashad Penny, Sky Moore, Tyler Boyd, and Jahad Dodson to round out this draft. Ari, what are your quick thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tougher with the auto pick in the second round because, I mean, it's possible that they had Mark Andrews in their queue, and that's how they took him. I'm not sure if he would have been the auto pick, I guess, the top player available there, so I'm not really sure about that. But I like Najee and Etienne there, late first, late third round. I'm cool with Deontay in the early 4th, Michael Thomas in the late 5th. I like the Lamar Jackson, Alan Lazard picks. I like the Sky Moore, Tyler Boyd. I like the wide receiver depth late, given that you waited for your wide receiver 1 until the 4th round. So, pretty solid overall. I think it's a pretty well-rounded, balanced team.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I feel like the auto pick definitely is kind of the more bigger factor as to why things didn't really align well. But I mean, that's just kind of that's just kind of tough luck at the end of the day. But definitely saving yourself with getting late round value in Alan Lazard and Rashad Penny, great value for them. and then Tyler Boyd as well as Sky Moore and Jahad Dotson, really young, high on these young receivers out of Kansas City and Washington. But just that auto draft is hard, so you can't really do anything about that. So that's just kind of the luck of the draw. So I think that's kind of just the reason why things are a little complicated for you. But then finally, we're going to our final team here. This is S. Dawes. This is their team. First round, they went with Travis Kelce before going with DeAndre Swift back to back. And then obviously the second back to back was Josh Allen, and then Michael Pittman, and then going back to back running backs in Elijah Mitchell and AJ Dillon before going 3 wide receivers in Elijah Moore, Traylon Burks, and Kadarius Toney before going with Ronald Jones and wrapping the draft with Nyheim Hines. We already talked about how hard it is to be that, the turn being the 12th pick overall. It's hard. You got to go with what value, and you got to think to the future there. But, how do you think this team is looking as the 12th pick in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen one team drafted where they take both a tight end and quarterback in the first 3 picks, and it turns out well. So, I mean, maybe you could find your wide receiver 2 between Elijah Moore, Burks, and Toney. One of those 2 on a week-to-week basis, but I wouldn't feel that confident in that kind of group. I like Moore, I like Burks. There's upside with Toney, so it's not a knock on them as much as it is just I'd rather have them be wide receiver 3, 4, 5 than 2, 3, 4. So, I mean, I personally can't recommend going both tight end and quarterback in the first 3 rounds. But I mean, if you want to secure that, elite player at those 2 positions, then by all means go ahead. I like them. I'm fine with the value of Mitchell in the late 5th round. I like the Dillon pick there back to back. So I like that move. It's just I would have rather went, maybe wide receiver over at least one of Kelce or Josh Allen just to make it a little bit more well-rounded. And then taking that position, later, whatever you went wide receiver over between Kelce and Allen. So, I mean, that's just what sends out at first. But, I mean, wide receiver is deep. So, obviously, it's possible that, one of more Burks or Toney could be serviceable on a week-to-week basis. I just wouldn't feel that confident in it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I feel like, it's tough when you have a tight end in QB as your first 3 picks, especially in a snake draft like this where you're the last pick in the draft. You got to go quickly and make quick decisions, and, sometimes you get the tough end of the stick. And so, that can definitely affect the team. But definitely you mentioned wide receivers deep. Maybe going with a dead wide receiver 2 over like Elijah Mitchell or something. But yeah, kind of tough end of the stick, but definitely deep in with a wide receiver belt. Running back definitely a bigger question, but you have AJ Dillon to back that up along with Ronald Jones, who potentially could be something out of the Chiefs' backfield with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and his potential injuries, or what have him throughout the upcoming season. But yeah, this has been another mock draft. We're gonna wrap things up for another episode of AKP Sports Talk. We also said tune in Wednesday. That's going to be our big MLB trade deadline special, looking at everything that happens today and heading into Tuesday as well. But before we go, we have 2 more breaking news out of the MLB. First off, Austin Riley, he got a massive contract with the Braves, 10 years, $212 million guaranteed. That's a fat contract for someone well-deserving, a big contract extension the Braves announced today. For an all-star third baseman who's kind of, taking this team under his realm this year. Ari, what are your quick thoughts?
Yeah, well-deserved. It was what you said, 10 years, I think you said. So definitely well-deserved with that. It kind of came out of nowhere. At least I haven't heard any kind of rumors of them talking about an extension, but it's definitely good timing to, bring it up, or good timing to get it done, this time of year during the trade deadline.
Yeah, and then one more thing. Something kind of interesting. The Houston Astros are trying to get Christian Vasquez of the Boston Red Sox for a trade for 2 minor league pitchers, but it's kind of funny because the Red Sox are playing in Houston tonight, so it looks like Vasquez is going to be switching dugouts, going from the Red Sox to the Houston dugout tonight, and it kind of also brings up the point where the Sox, potentially going to be selling their team at the deadline, and then also talks about, the Astros now potentially being out of the Wilson Contreras race after trying to get Trey Mancini with getting Christian Vasquez to be that star guy. So, definitely brings that conversation up. Ari, what are your quick thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know Astros fans really were disappointed by the performance this season of Martin Maldonado behind the plate offensively, and some Vasquez should help that. I know that they were linked to Wilson Contreras to the Cubs as well, so obviously this puts them out of that race, for Contreras. But definitely a good day for the Astros getting both Mancini and Christian Vasquez.
Yes, definitely. Great upgrade from Martin Maldonado to Christian Vasquez for that.
And there's it's just reported that either the Mets or Red Sox are trading for Tommy Pham.
Oh yeah, that is true. I just saw that too. I don't know why it would be the Red Sox, honestly, but it says the Reds they have. It says that they have traded Tommy Pham. I would assume it's the Mets, but I mean, obviously, either one of the two teams. Right now, we don't know which team that Tommy Pham is currently going to. I see a lot of trolling saying, hopefully, it's the Giants because of the beef between him and Jock Peterson. Definitely a great interaction in the clubhouse. But we're gonna get all of the updates on all the trades as we get, as they come in and as they become announced, and we will be doing a complete debrief of how the pretty much final stretch of the season looks after the trade deadline on Wednesday. But this has been another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea, and we will see you guys on Wednesday.